Welcome to the Cincinnati Bengals Riverfront. How about Riverfront Cincinnati Bengals Show, episode 28. We are up to the Corey Dillon of episodes. We are the number 3 Bengals-related show in the sprawling metropolis that is Montpelier, Vermont. You got any thoughts about Vermont, Nate?
I have none. I would love to visit at some point in the summer.
Maple syrup and Ben Jerry's ice cream, and they make pretty good teddy bears. I heard
heavy dose of Bernie Sanders, and he's the meme guy. He makes a lot of good memes.
He's angry. He's a very angry man.
Angry.
I am one half of your hosts here. I am Joe Farsing. Alongside me is the man, the myth, the legend, the sexiest bald-headed man on this screen. He is Nate Dotson. What is going on, dude?
Joe, I am loving life over here. It's been a good week, been a busy week. We actually we thought we were gonna have no Bengals news to report on today, and there ended up being a little bit, which was fun. So excited to get into that and talk a little football with you guys.
That sounds like a plan. I was just gonna make some shit up and just hope, and to see if you could see through any of it. But hey, we have actual legitimate stuff to talk about. Real quick before we get going, if you are watching on YouTube, hi. Click like, hit subscribe, smash it if you must. You can caress it. I don't care what you do with the button. And goodbye. Like we said on YouTube, these are beautiful things that happen when you're recording. If you are listening to us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on anywhere, rate us 5 stars only. Tell a friend. Tell someone you like. Don't tell anyone you don't like, because we only want cool people watching us and listening to us.
That's right.
Let's get going here for today. First thing on news and notes, the NFL Scouting Combine is going on in nearby Indianapolis. Yesterday, Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor both had press conferences, talked to the media a little bit, and just got to hit on a couple things real quickly here. Duke had this to say about Joe Burrow's impending extension. Quote, "It's not done yet. It's a good problem to have. I've been pretty vocal about what Joe means to us, and my job is to facilitate his contract or his success as best I can with putting pieces around him. And his contract will get done when it gets done, but it's a good problem to have." That's, again, this is nothing, nothing that we wouldn't expect to hear. But what do you, any thoughts?
He did make some other comments. I don't have them right in front of me, that anybody who is hopeful that Joe is going to, structure his deal in a way that keeps the most top end talent around. He made some comments that made it sound like that was indeed the case. He said something along the lines of, Joe knows what he wants to do to keep those guys around. So certainly nothing concrete, but for any of us and all of us that are hoping that's the case, there were some encouraging signs.
Yeah, it's, and again, we can't tell Joe to take less money. You've got such a small window to make, in the NFL, make as much money as you can, but encouraging signs, who knows what it means until actual pen hits paper, but it's still good to hear.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like, do you want when you walk into that locker room, do you want those guys to look at you the way that Joe Burrow's teammates do, and most likely will, or do you want to be looked at the way that Russell Wilson's teammates look at him? I have a pretty good guess which one you'd rather be, at least in the esteem of your teammates.
Do you think Russell Wilson's teammates could actually look at him with a straight face?
I don't think so. I think they all snicker behind his back. They probably try to towel whip him and trip him and just bully him in the bathroom.
Lock him and tape him up and throw him into a locker like he's a freshman on the varsity high school team.
I love it. Screw you, Russell Wilson.
Phoniest man in the NFL. He also had some stuff to say about Joe Mixon. He said, Duke said, "Joe's been a vital part of our team. He's been a successful part of our team. Again, I'm not going to predict the offseason because I don't have the answers. In the words of the great Kevin Malone, I don't know." First off, points right there for quoting Kevin Malone from The Office. Probably the greatest character in the entire show. He said, "We'll see as the offseason goes what we're able to do or what we're able to get done and how the resources are spread around. But he's a vital part of our team, successful part, contributing part." This is, again, alluding to what the Bengals plan on doing. Mixon's got a huge cap hit. He makes $2 million a year more than the franchise tag for running backs, and no one needs to be paying a decent running back that much. Again, there's only so much that he can say on the matter because he's under contract. He can't say, "Oh yeah, we're going to cut the guy," or he's going to take more, take less money or else.
Yeah, Well, Zach Taylor had some comments here too. He provides his, I think he's given us great juice. He's been a really good weapon for us and voted a captain this year by the team. He's been a consistent guy for us and for me, and I really enjoy being around him. So this is just classic coach and GM speak, man. They beat around the bush. I mean, we are loud and proud supporters of the Cut Joe Mixon fan club on this podcast. Not anything to do with him personally, but got plenty of opinions on that too. But just
A
from
little bit to do with him personally.
a little bit personal. But just from a cap management standpoint, you kind of have to. I don't see how they keep him at the number he's at. You got guys like Leonard Fournette available now. Maybe that's something. I don't know. But I am personally going to read the writing on the wall here and say bye-bye, Joe.
Another guy who's going to be cut loose. I'm not sure if he's actually an actual free agent. I haven't looked into the names yet because it's a little early for it. Yeah, I think he's an actual free agent. Jamal Williams up in Detroit. He had a fantastic year. Touchdown machine, and he's one of the best blocking running backs in the entire NFL. He's an old, not old, but older running back, so he's not going to cost a lot. He's going to cost less than what Mixon would cost, even if he restructured. Yeah. So
he's going to be cheaper, and he would be an upgrade at pretty much every level of the running back position.
Yeah, and if you choose to go the veteran route, I mean, I think that's a better way to go. I still think drafting a running back is a must at some point, whether you bring someone else in or not. But yeah, it's definitely Mixon isn't the only option to have a successful running back room next year.
Yeah.
Finally, on the elephant of the room, he had just some thinly he didn't really make his thoughts known. He was kind of beating around the bush with all the talk about Tee Higgins. Quote, I'm not in the business of making other teams better. I'm in the business of making the Cincinnati Bengals better. And so trading Tee Higgins is not on my mind. Thinking going on about other teams, trying to, or all of the social media conjecture about him being traded to other teams. That's their problem. If they want a receiver, go find your own. In my opinion, Tee Higgins is a good piece for the Cincinnati Bengals. So the trade stuff is a little ridiculous right now. Zach Taylor called the trade talks nonsense. Boom, there you have it. That's nothing that we haven't been saying. Bengals don't trade anybody. They've made 3 trades that are of any note in my the best of my recollection, and they were all because they were basically they fleeced the other team. You had Carson Palmer for a first rounder and a second rounder. When they were content to let the dudes stay retired, they traded for Reggie Nelson from the Jaguars for some backup cornerback named David Jones. And then they traded the bloated corpse of Billy Price for B.J. Hill. And that one there, I mean, look at how huge the returns were on that one. Billy Price was gone after 1 year. I don't know if you got anything to add on that. He made it pretty clear.
Yeah, I think finally, so we can quit talking about it because you've been harping on that since day one.
Yeah.
It's just not an option. They don't have to trade him. He's under contract. The only sort of worry I have is that he has the same contract as Jesse Bates, and Jesse was upfront and honest about same age as Jesse Bates. Jesse was upfront about how that process went and how that made him feel relative to what he found, what he thought his value was. And yeah, you can get some feelings hurt that way. I hope it doesn't get that far with T, because for just being honest, he's a bigger piece of the puzzle than Jesse was. Love Jesse, would love to have him back at the right number. Blah blah blah. But he's under contract. They have to figure out Joe Burrow first before they can figure out Tee Higgins. So he's going to play it out. He might hold out and miss some of training camp or something, but I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to threaten to miss any meaningful reps.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to everything that these guys were saying during Super Bowl week, they're all expect that Burrow's going to do the right thing, quote, to take a contract extension that's going to leave room for everybody else. So how hypocritical would it be for him to turn down a reasonable extension? If Burrow takes a reasonable extension to leave to keep his toys around him. So he's not going anywhere. The only time I could ever see him possibly being traded is if they can't get anything done between now and the end of 2023 season, when they can tag him and then trade him. But again, I don't see that happening. I still think they're going to work out a 3, maybe 4-year deal, big money earlier, so that by the time that Burrow's and Chase's big money hits, he's he's coming out of it. He's still going to be 27 and have 27, 28 years old, and able to sign a big contract elsewhere because he'll still be young enough. So
yeah, sure.
On that, we do have a viewer mail question from Andrew Morin. Asked, do you think the Bengals will trade Tee Higgins?
I think we've answered that, Andrew.
Yes, absolutely. He's going for a 7th rounder and a conditional 6th rounder in 2025.
I love it.
Quick league-wide notes. Again, like I mentioned before, the Scouting Combine is going on this week in Indianapolis. The Underwear Olympics that Mike Florio, Pro Football, talked up. It's all really ridiculous that they have these guys go through all of these measurements and 40-yard. These guys have played against competition, and I get you want to be able to compare. You can compare numbers. A 40-yard dash speed, one apples to apples against other guys as compared to trying to compare them against different competition. But it's all really ridiculous. People are going to ask them really dumb questions in these interviews. Someone's going to lose a crap load of money because there's something that dumb that that pops out before the draft. Jalen Carter, the possible number 1 overall pick, just had an arrest warrant for a misdemeanor for involved with a fatal car accident of his teammate. And this is stuff that coincidental that it happens during, maybe not, I don't know, but like this crap, it's just kind of a waste of time. But there are a couple of prospects that I am kind of curious to see where they end up, just only because it might affect their availability for the Bengals. I know you're not a big college football guy, so I don't know how much you're going to add for this.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to completely defer to you here. I don't watch college football. Any sport where Baker Mayfield can be named the best player in the country is useless to me. So
you can take a quick.
You tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, you can take a quick 90-second cat nap if you want. Darnell Washington, tight end, University of Georgia. He was the kind of the backup, not backup, but number 2 tight end behind Brock Bowers, who isn't draft eligible yet. He is a monster. He is 6'7", 270 pounds. He's almost the size. I mean, he's the size of a smaller offensive lineman. Great run blocker. He's a decent and willing pass blocker. Limited receiving numbers because, again, he was the number 2 tight end there. But if he can show soft hands and maybe 4.6 range speed, he definitely won't be there in round 1. Might not be there in round, or definitely won't be there in round 2. Might not be there in round 1. But this is a guy that could definitely help you. When you've got a team that struggles to block, this guy coming in, just chipping a defensive end, he can wipe a defensive end out and still release into a route.
You can just not move, because I don't know if you heard yourself, but he's 6'7", 270. The guy's a monument.
I mean, that's almost Magnus, or Magnus, everyone's favorite defensive end, Margus Hunt from Estonia, that the Bengals had for a few years. I mean, just massive size.
I thought you were going with Magnus over Magnuson, the world's strongest man, lifting 400 kilos.
Guys that are going full kegs over their head backwards. Those are fantastic. Yeah. Again, you've seen some of the moves he can make after reception. Like, he's got some just freak athletic ability. The other guy that I'm kind of interested in is Ivan Pace, linebacker, University of Cincinnati, hometown guy, highest graded defender all of college football per PFF. He's on the smaller side, 5'10", 231 pounds, flashed great speed at the Senior Bowl, undersized, but he's an absolute missile. Just the power that he can, if you ever watch some of the tape, he takes on these offensive linemen, bull rushes them at 231 pounds and wins. He's that strong, his lower body. He's a guy I would love to see in the middle rounds.
231 is huge for 5'10".
Yeah, he's stout. I mean, he looks like a fire, or he looks like a water plug out there. I mean, just stocky guy, and he moves faster than you expect because he's that build. I would love to see him in the middle rounds, maybe 3rd round, 4th round, if he's available to come to the Bengals, because they need a playmaker, and he's a playmaker. So,
yeah, both of those guys sound good to me. I like fun dudes.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to touch on before we get into our topic of the week is this dropped shortly before the podcast, and I apologize for not prompting you on it. But did you see the NFL player team report cards?
I did not.
So the Players Association, I guess, sent out these report cards and let every player in the league give a grade to teams based on, it looks like they used treatment of families, nutrition, weight room, strength staff, training room, training staff, and locker room and travel. And it's like a little thing they do, and then once completed, they hand it out to all the free agents saying, hey, when you're making your choices, here's what the league is saying about the different teams. I don't know where Cincinnati stacked up completely. They weren't top three and weren't bottom three. I know that. But one thing that really surprised me was they were one of two teams to get an F in both nutrition and treatment of families. I wonder how much of that is legit and how much of that is still like bad reputation from previous regimes.
I wonder about that because I just now the article just popped up and I'm kind of glancing at it real quickly. Kansas City Chiefs ranked 29th overall in their grading. So that's, again, that doesn't always translate. Bengals,
Chiefs got an F on travel, D- in locker room and training staff, and a D+ in training room.
Yeah. Bengals are the only team in the league that doesn't offer health supplements to their players, which is weird that they don't. But then again, just go to a GNC and get them. But whatever. Again, I'm kind of curious. I'm just glancing at this as you mentioned it. So
yeah, we might have to dive into that later on. But I thought that was interesting, and I had a feeling that some of that was just based on, the previous reputation stank that they haven't quite rinsed off yet. Because you hear anybody talk about this team now, anybody in the last 2 seasons, and it's the greatest place to play football in the country. So
yeah, and a lot of these guys have they've got a handful of free agents, but I mean the core of this team is built from guys that they drafted. So what are they comparing it to?
Sure, exactly.
So anyway, on to this week's topic of the week. This week we are choosing the Bengals all-time team just by their best season. We're just going to do offensive skill positions and then just a handful of linemen. Again, we're not on power ranking or any fun thing like that. Just picking up a handful of seasons that in the annals of the storied history of the Cincinnati Bengals that we think kind of stand out, and we'll give a couple nominees and then pick who we think the best is. You'll start the quarterback category there, Nate?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little more context. Our plan is to eventually release an entire all-time team based on best single seasons, and the only real rule that we had was that you could not have the same player twice. So you can't use, 2 Joe Burrow, or no, sorry, it wouldn't matter. Like wide receiver, you can't use 2 Chad Johnson seasons. You can only use Chad Johnson once. And offensive linemen, we should call this the Anthony Munoz honorary can only use them once award, because it would just be only him, probably for every team in the NFL. But yeah, so that's it. So let's start. Let's start with QB.
You want to start the list, or?
So yeah, we actually had the same number 1 here, and that was Joe Burrow's 2021 season. So not this past season, the one before, when he had 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 4,611 yards, and a 108.3 passer rating, or is that a PFF rating? I don't know.
It's the passer rating.
Some other notes that he was first in it's most yardage in team history, most in yards per game in team history, best completion percentage of anyone playing a meaningful amount of games in team history, and second in touchdowns. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. You even pointed out that he played 1 less game because they rested him. There are some other seasons that weren't mentioning, but I thought that 2021 was a standalone kind of affair.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at his at this past season, 2022. Again, I mean, these are, flip a coin, but 35 touchdowns. So that's actually the team record. Fewer interceptions, 4,475 yards. So fewer yards per game, but anyone who watched them, like he was fantastic, and every team would be fine having that guy.
And
100.8. Go ahead.
The teams were also just gearing on him all season long. I don't think it was until about halfway through last season when the league really caught notice. The season before last. So this past one, he had a bullseye the entire time, and he also had that appendix issue. If he would have started out the season 100%, I think he blows 2001 out of the water. So we know what we have to look forward to next season anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 straight years. 2020 was only partial season, but he's thrown more touchdowns every year. So, this season that might be my non-Burrow number 1 is Kenny Anderson's 1981 season. He was the NFL MVP, led them to Super Bowl 16, 29 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 3,754 yards, which was the team record for almost 25 years. 98.4 quarterback rating, and those were days when defenses were so much more physical. Receivers didn't get as much. Defensive backs were able to mug the wide receivers off the line of scrimmage, so to be able to put up those kind of numbers. And I mean, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time, so definitely had to throw some mention in for Kenny Anderson.
Yeah, Kenny falls victim to the era conversation. I mean, I still don't know that he beats out Burrow's last 2 years, but Kenny Anderson was a stud, and that 81 season was something.
Yeah.
Some other guys worth mentioning. I'll throw out 2005 Carson Palmer. 32 touchdowns, 12 INT, just over 3,800 passing yards, 101.1 passer rating, and the AFC North title. The reason that I don't think you can give him this spot, other than relevant stats, is because I don't like your face, Carson Palmer. I don't like your face. So, yeah, Carson Palmer, sorry, man. You don't get it, bro.
Yeah, another guy that definitely warrants mention, and people kind of forget because he's kind of become just the journeyman now. Andy Dalton's 2015 season, he was electric. 25 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, 3,250 yards, 106.2 quarterback rating. He missed the last 3.5 games because that's when he broke his thumb against the Steelers, and then missed the wild card. Terrible, awful, traumatic, PTSD-inducing wild card game against the Steelers. But yeah, I mean, that was his best season. That was his Matt Ryan taking the Falcons to the Super Bowl season. That
right.
Again, all the narratives that followed the team around, but I mean, that was the team right there. That was the best Bengals team that I can remember before these past two seasons. They were just dynamite. Oddly, we both left out Boomer Esiason off of any list, and he was the NFL MVP in '88. But sorry, Boomer, I like you, but didn't make the cut. We're more important than you are. Sorry.
If we had the all nickname team, Boomer will be on there.
Even his real name is pretty damn cool. Norman Julius Esiason. That's
pretty gangster. That's pretty cool.
Norman. So yeah, we're going with 21. What's that?
No, go ahead.
Burrow 19. Wow. Burrow 2021 season is our pick for the all-time quarterback season of the Bengals history. On to running backs. They've had a lot of good running backs through the years. A lot of guys to choose. And there's a lot of guys we're missing from the list here, especially guys earlier in the Bengals history that, because the era, there weren't, aren't really as comparable. But we do apologize to those missing that we don't have Boobie Clark or Essex Johnson on here. So I don't know if you want to throw our pick out there for us, Nate.
You are going to remember this with more detail than me, but we decided to go with the Corey Dillon 2000 season. 1,435 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry, and that legendary 278-yard game versus Denver. Now, if I'm being honest, I was sleeping on our guy Rudy Johnson a little bit here. 3 of the top 6 seasons by yards were Rudy. There were some real contenders here. It was tougher than I thought when I started diving in.
Yeah, I think the only reason that I put Dillon over the top is the other seasons of any of the running backs. They're part of good offenses. They had decent quarterback play, decent to good quarterback play. Corey Dillon had Achilles Smith and Scott Mitchell throwing the ball. So defenses, I mean, he was facing 7-8 man boxes every single game. 278-yard game. The Bengals had 14 net passing yards that game. That's a 1 and a 4, Pete Rose's number. Achilles Smith was 2 for 9 for 34 yards. Scott Mitchell comes in, goes 0 for 5. Obviously 0 yards there, then losing 20 yards in sacks. He had no help. And if he had one shred, if he was able to play if he stuck around for the Carson Palmer days, he would put up 1,800 yards. Again, this is before, I'm sure before you really got into watching him, but he ran angry. He was fast. He was huge. I think he's got the team record 96-yard touchdown run in Detroit. He just amazing to watch.
Yeah, that's definitely a worthy choice. I do want to give a quick shout out to my favorite season, which was 1989, James Brooks. And he had just had a ludicrous 5.6 yards per attempt that year, which is so fun. And am I choosing to ignore the 9 fumbles? Yes, I am, because we can do that if we want to. But that was a super fun season too.
Yeah, we've got James Brooks' 86 season up here, only 1,087 yards, but 5.3 yards per carry, which led the league. Another 686 receiving yards. I mean, that's 1,750 total yards. He was an absolute weapon.
Yeah,
9 total touchdowns. And then Ickey Woods in 1988, his rookie season, 1,066 yards on the ground, 5.3 yards a carry, 15 touchdowns. He and James Brooks combined for just shy of 2,000 yards rushing that year. Wow. So, but again, I think just for sheer dominance and comparing the load that they had to carry for those teams, I got to give it to Corey Dillon's 2000 season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Moving on over to wide receiver, this is where our only one nomination per player rule came into play. Who do you want to start us off with?
First one is most recent one that we have on our list here. It's Ja'Marr Chase's rookie year, 2021. 81 catches, 1,455 yards, which is a team record. 13 touchdowns, 18 yards per catch.
Yeah.
And this rookies, they're going to start out slowly. Now, granted, he caught a 50-plus yard touchdown in his very first game, but these are guys that it usually takes them a few weeks, better part of the season to get rolling. And he was just dynamite from the jump.
Yeah, that's legit. That yardage, 1,455, like you said, first in team history. The 18 yards per catch is the most of anyone with more than 65 catches in a season. So, of your wide receiver ones, that's the most in team history. And then the 13 touchdowns that season were second in team history. So, it was a legendary season, especially for a freaking rookie for Ja'Marr Chase. After that, I think I'd like to nominate 2005 Chad Johnson. He was a first team All-Pro. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is one of my honorable mentions that I just want to get shouted out real quick. First team All-Pro in 2005, 97 catches, 1,432 yards, third in team history. Man, there were just some fun options for the rest of these wide receiver slots. But you wanted to correctly, I might add, go with a different Ocho Cinco season. Which one was that?
Yeah, this is 2003. This was the year that he broke out onto the scene. 90 receptions, 1,355 yards, 10 touchdowns, 15.1 yards per reception. He was a lot of this was done by himself. He had Peter Warrick. Hushmanzada really hadn't gotten much of a role at that point, and he had John Kitna throwing him the ball. Most of the other guys on this list had much more qualified starting quarterbacks, distributing the ball. So this, again, same category as Corey Dillon. When you're looking at, comparatively who they're playing with, I just think this might have been the best season that he, at least most noteworthy season of his. He had several. A lot of these guys, wide receivers, these guys are number ones for multiple years. So you can put a lot of these seasons up here, but I think that's our number 2.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And very good call. I wasn't paying attention when I was doing my research on this one, who was actually throwing the ball. So the fact that he even came anywhere close to his 2005 season in pure counting stats with John Kitna throwing the ball is definitely a differentiator. Who you got for your third guy?
John Kitna is now the head coach here. It's locally in Cincinnati, Lakota East High School. That was a odd hire, but
interesting.
Kudos. Good luck to, I don't know if they're the Thunderhawks or the Firebirds. I don't know. They're one of the two. There's 2 Lakota schools. Guy that I have number 3 is kind of a wild card pick. He was always kind of the number 2 receiver, but Eddie Brown, 1986. He was wide receiver out of Miami, if I'm not mistaken. This was his second year in the league. Only 53 catches, which is way down there, but for 1,273 yards, 9 receptions, 24 yards per catch. That number is just ridiculous. 4 catches and you're all the way down the field. So even in those days, there's still cornerbacks were still able to mug you a little bit. That number just absolutely floors me every time I see that.
Yeah, I would say it's a bold choice. I think that was Joe pulling rank a little bit and saying, like, I'm the host. I like this guy because his yards per catch was ridiculous. We should definitely mention. I mean, if we were creating a roster like out of, you can only select one wide receiver one, and then your wide receiver two has to be a guy who was the second option when they played. Then I think that we have some more fun with this. Maybe we'll do that on a later episode. But no, perfectly worthy. I do want to throw some love out to 2013 AJ Green. Just a ridiculous year. 98 catches, 1,426 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he was just a monster. We could also talk about a couple of those TJ Houshmandzadeh seasons.
Yeah.
Again, if we were building like a team that needed wide receiver twos and wide receiver threes, that 112 catch season by Hoosh was definitely a nominee. But
that guy had
pretty solid.
He had
pretty solid wide receiver crew.
Steel trap hands. We also need to throw in Isaac Curtis. He never had any huge, explosive numbers, but he had 1975, 44 catches, 934 yards, 7 touchdowns, 21.2 yards per reception. He is basically responsible for a lot of the rules that they put in place to protect wide receivers from getting the absolute shit kicked out of them. Because surprise, surprise, there were some assholes wearing black and gold over in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure if you have heard of the Steel Curtain or not. Again, like what they did to offensive players would amount to it would be assault in this day and age. These guys would have been arrested as soon as they stepped off the field, and he's directly responsible because they absolutely beat the shit out of him, and he still was able to put up some fantastic numbers.
Just because I can't let this go by, we say to Steelers fans, don't you?
You know something? You suck.
Yeah, and my boy Jamar Chase always has something to show.
Yeah, that's true.
Steelers, so
we gotta get that picture ready.
I know. need to move that picture blown up. So onward to our tight ends here. Tight ends Bengals haven't had that absolute dynamite, dynamic tight end. They've had a handful of good seasons from them. They never had a Travis Kelce, Tony Gonzalez, George Kittle player like that, but they have had some noteworthy seasons. Guy that we picked for our number one of all time, going all the way back to second season of the Bengals roster, Bob Trumpy, more famous around Cincinnati. I think probably more for being the guy who started the sports talk format here in the city after his playing days. But 1969 season, 37 catches, 835 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 22.6 yards per reception as a tight end. Like that number, again, talking about the 24 yards by Eddie Brown, 22.6 as a tight end is just absolutely stupid.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. And if we're taking anything away from this conversation, is that Joe loves these splash plays, baby. He wants yards per catch, big chunks down the field.
Junk plays, man.
Bob Trumpy, like legend. Absolutely love this choice. Like you said, he had only 80 less yards, give or take, than the guy that I thought was going to be the front runner for this choice on almost half the catches. Just a ridiculous season.
Yeah.
And that guy is my runner-up is Dan Ross, 1981's Dan Ross. The most receptions in a season by a tight end in team history. Those 910 yards are also the most in team history. I'm hoping that sometime in the next year or two, we might be able to have a different answer to this one because it seems like there's going to be a priority to get a new tight end soon. Maybe Hayden Hurst is that guy. We don't know.
Darnell Washington, I already mentioned him above.
That's true.
A little honorable mention to Tyler Eifert, 2015. When that dude was healthy, when he could stay on the field, he was a weapon. 52 catches, 615 yards, 13 touchdowns, most in a single season by a tight end. And also, he had some of the greatest touchdown celebrations. There was when he pretended like he was popping open the football like it was a can of beer and chugging it. He was an absolute fun guy. He's still a big. I think he's technically retired now, but he's still a big Bengals fan. If you follow him on the social media, so. Jermaine Gresham and Rodney Holman had some decent seasons. Rodney Holman was an absolute rock for those mid-late 80s Bengals teams. had some fantastic seasons, kind of overshadowed by the running game and Tim McGee and Eddie Brown. But he was also fantastic as well. But
yeah, if you're just looking at counting stats, you'd be surprised how often Gresham showed up right there. He had some good years.
And he was looked at as a disappointment. I mean, he kind of disappeared, and he would make the crucial mistake, either a drop or some dumb penalty like false start or something. But he was productive. He's very athletic, huge target. He had some decent decent career in Arizona a little bit after he left here, but still glad that he left and they replaced him with Eifert.
Yeah, absolutely.
On our offensive line, left tackle is pretty easy. We really don't have to pick a year. Anthony Munoz, he was all pro every year except his rookie year and his final year. So again, pick a year after 81 to 90, we'll say 82, 83, 84, 85, pick an all pro year.
I did pick a year, actually.
Look at you.
1986. Why? My guy was not just an all pro tackle that year. He caught 2 touchdowns that season.
Yeah, they moved him over to tackle eligible. Sorry, completely spaced out.
So love that little wild card as the only thing to differentiate, 9 first team all pros, which is just insanity. Best tackle ever?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, gotta be. Who else worth mentioning here? I went with the 2005 Willie Anderson season for the other tackle spot. My reasoning really was just that Rudy Johnson set the franchise rushing yard record that year, and Cincinnati made the playoffs for the first time since 1990. So anchoring that line when those two things happened, I thought was worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, not really any argument that Willie Anderson was the best right tackle in team history. For our guards, we didn't really differentiate left guard, right guard. I think both of our picks are left guards, but I picked Max Montoya, Willie Anderson's running mate for 9 seasons. He was with the Bengals from 79 to 89. I'll pick his 1986 year. He made the playoffs, or Bengals made the playoffs. He made the Pro Bowl, and you can point to the downfall of the Bengals in the 90s to them letting him leave after the 89 season. Free agency was kind of a new deal back then. Paul Brown was as bad as Mike Brown was with free agency. That's kind of, everyone talks about how Mike Brown kind of screwed the team. Well, it's because his dad was the same kind of stuck in the mud old man, but they let him go to the Raiders. Offensive line broke down, and team had a decade of shitty plays. So definitely Max Montoya, I believe belongs up there.
Yeah, I agree. I had that 1989 season. He was second team all pro that year. Just a great football name too, Max Montoya. I'm thinking about naming my future son Max Montoya. Even if I have a daughter, I might name her Max Montoya. Stranger Things made it clear that you can name a girl Max. So
of course.
For the other guard spot, I went with 2005 Eric Steinbach. You kind of mentioned that they both played sort of the same position, but Steinbach was known as being one of the game's premier pulling linemen and was super versatile. He definitely lined up all over, which I think made him a good addition to to this conversation. But this one was a little tougher for me. I didn't have really an obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably maybe try to throw in, just for sentimental reasons, some Dave Lapham. Dave Lapham played literally everywhere across the offensive line for the Bengals. Played all 5 positions. Primarily played guard, but I think Steinbach probably races a higher player. Came in 2003, was the second round pick after the Bengals picked Carson Palmer that year, and just the start of those two, that's good 2 building blocks to go off back to back. On my center, Bengals have had a handful of decent ones. My choice is Bob Johnson, Bengals' first ever draft pick, the only Bengals player with his number retired, number 54. 1968 pick out of the University of Tennessee. He was a Pro Bowler in his very first rookie season. Again, it was just a block on the line for a decade plus.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. 1968 season was the one I singled out. He was the only center in team history, I think, to make the Pro Bowl. Mentioned he's the first ever draft pick. They call him the original Bengal. Like that's a pretty cool nickname. And the only jersey the team has ever retired. So I think it was always going to be Bob Johnson. You just have to pick a year.
Yeah, either that or I'm totally spacing on the guy they picked. They moved up and picked a few years ago. Oh my lord, I'm spacing out, and I should have made this up. Everyone hated the pick. He was terrible. And they've had pretty much crap since then. So I'll just move on so I don't seem like an idiot.
Fortunately, we have no producer and we can't edit this, so everybody get this live and uncut.
We are nothing if not professional and high dollar production
That's
quality
right.
here.
So
yeah,
what we'll do is we'll make a little graphic of this, maybe tweet that out, and get on the comments, sound off, let us know what y'all think. If we overlooked anybody, if you think we're just blatantly wrong, if you don't value yards per catch as much as Joe does, let us know and say terrible things about. You love him, man. You love him.
You
so anything else?
I was gonna say you take your slants and ins and digs and everything. I'll take 25 yards downfield, man.
It's hard to argue with it. It's hard to argue. I do want to shout out real quick before we get into it. Looks to be some viewer mail questions. My man Joe Burrow, he's got a biography coming out. I don't know if you saw that. Don't know what that's about, but I guess cool. And then I saw that he invested in a women's pro volleyball league. So before he even cashes in with those big bucks, he's already got a farm and a women's pro volleyball league. So really diversifying his assets. Good job, Joe.
Definitely interesting investments. Someone, you hear a lot of people that invest, they'll buy, or at least back in the day, they'd buy car dealerships or something like that. I like the idea of buying farms and buying pro sports leagues. It's unique and I'm all for it.
I support it. I mean, from just a pure investment, like asset standpoint, farms, great way to go. But the pro women's sports league, I imagine that's more like he knows somebody involved. He's just trying to help out. He's trying to support more than he is, make big bucks. So both cool things. The biography, whatever.
I love unique guys. Yeah, I love unique guys in Cincinnati named Joe. I mean, we got one on the football side, we got one on the baseball side. I don't know if I'm unique, but I still somewhat fit a little bit. So
that's true. You're the same age as another famous Joe, Joe Nuxall.
I am. I'm the old left-hander. Shut up! Get off my lawn.
That's right. Do we have a couple of viewer mail questions this week?
We do have a couple of viewer mail questions. As always, you can send them over to us, team at Riverfront Cincy. Send them over either direct message or whatever on our Twitter feed, or better yet, just join our Patreon, the Riverfront Cincinnati, and you can be part of our Slack channel. You can be part of Hangouts every week, or 1 week a month. We do a Hangout live. Cool time. You get our Slack channel, and you can send messages there. So.
Yeah, we have a great time on there. Patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. If you do want to join the family, it's as little as $2 a month. We are constantly cutting up. We're talking about movies and Bengals and the Reds and all kinds of random stuff. So hop on there, join us if you feel so inclined. And mostly you just get to talk to Joe more, and who wouldn't want that?
My wife. Anyway, first question in viewer mail comes from our good buddy, James Urban. How many hours would you spend in a darkness chamber before you completely lost it? I'd put the over under at 4 for me. That is referencing everyone's favorite. I don't even know how to categorize him. Aaron Rodgers, just a weird ass guy. Spent his 4 days in the darkness, has emerged, saw his shadow, and we're waiting to figure out what the hell he's going to do. So how many hours do you think you last?
I don't know what I'm more shocked by, that Aaron Rodgers did this to begin with, or that Joey Gaditza would only last 4 hours.
James Urban.
James Urban. Sorry, James. 4 hours? Did you even sleep, bro? I mean, I get about 9 hours every single night. So if I got there and just zoned out, went to sleep, and stayed until I got bored, I think I could give myself a day. I think I could go 1 day before I was just done with this. So let's call it 2 sleep sessions plus another 12 hours, 36 hours.
See, I think I'm closer to James on this. Obviously, I like to chat. I'm a very talkative, outgoing guy. I need to have music playing. I need something going on. I would lose my damn mind. I would hate it. I'm claustrophobic, so I would lose my shit fast. I think I might be under 4 hours.
You couldn't even go down there and just take a nap.
I don't think so.
Just go to
I thought
sleep.
the walls are closing. I would. It's again. I don't know how many how large the actual room is, but nah, I couldn't.
If I could have my pets with me, it would be longer. And I also got to know what the food situation is.
True.
I'm gonna need some food.
Mushrooms, lots of mushrooms.
Depending on which kind of mushrooms, I might be able to stay quite a bit longer.
True. Or you'd be in there for 2 hours and feel like it's been 3 days and you're ready to come out and
Or just bug out completely and stay for an hour and a half. That's too good.
On to our final question, short one this week, from our good buddy from the Great White North, Joey Gaditza. What say you guys? Perfect scenario. Lamar Jackson ends up in Burgundy in gold. Commanders become relevant again, and he leaves the AFC North for good. Is this ideal? Joe is a Commanders fan. I actually put forth that on Slack that I think that the Commanders would actually be a good fit for him. I have no idea what their cap situation is. They're owned by an absolute asshole. Their stadium's a piece of shit. But I'm for him leaving the AFC North. I mean, I don't, everyone talks about I want to play the best. Fuck that. I want things to be as easy as possible, man.
Yep. Absolutely. Especially with the quarterback gauntlet that this Bengals team already has to run through every year. Mitch Trubisky is the GOAT. But Joey, for those who don't know, is he's new to Bengals fanhood. So we poached him, really. He's been a Commanders fan his whole life. I met through the Reds Patreon stuff. And I don't know, man. I don't have a problem with Lamar. So I don't want to push that on anybody. I don't want anybody that I don't actively dislike to have to play for the Commanders, I guess is what I'm getting at. No shock to you. They finished dead last on the player team report card.
This is my shocked face. Honestly, in terms of football fit, though, I think that'll be a really good fit. They'd be a good team.
Yeah.
I think the NFC East was kind of fool's gold this year. I don't think the Cowboys are that good. The Giants are definitely not as good as how they finished. Eagles are really good, and they're going to be good for a while. But
Eagles are good. Question.
Yeah.
I guess to kind of go off topic, I apologize, but I didn't want to forget this. It looks like they're going to change the rule where you can push the quarterback on QB sneaks.
Dumb.
And
I saw them talking about it.
If you look back at the numbers, the Eagles utilized that way more than anybody did this year. It was wild. I legitimately think they could see some serious regression if that rule is gone.
The only question I have, and again, football rules are so there's a lot to them. And what's the history of the rule? I mean, I know at one point you used to not be able to do that. There's a famous image of Bart Starr getting pushed across or coming across the goal line, and one of the offensive linemen behind him with his hands up. It looks like he's signaling touchdown. I think it's Jerry Kramer signaling touchdown when actually he's showing the refs no, he's not helping him, not push him across. I don't see why that's really a problem. I think that's probably Jerry Jones, who's a very influential owner and has to face them twice a year, and probably just bitching because he got burned by it. And
yeah, that could be. I don't have a problem with it unless there's evidence that it's more likely to cause injury or something like that. I'm all about making the game safer if it's easy to do so. But other than that, I love going for it and fourth down. I don't care if it's smart, dumb, whatever. Go for it. It's fun. It's entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, so long as you're not picking the guy up and carrying him across the line, who cares? Those happen anyway.
That's fun too.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you see a big scrum of the running back is kind of in the middle of 5 defenders and there's 5 offensive linemen and they just kind of push the pile that's fun. That's I love seeing that. It's a rugby scrum.
I do want to see that giant tight end you talked about from Georgia coming through and picking dudes up and just run them with them like they're carrying a knapsack.
Oh, if they still had Giovanni Bernard, that guy was about the size of an acorn. He could spike him like a football. That would be fantastic.
Fantastic.
Anyway, viewer mail, if you guys ever have any of those, please send them our way any which way you can. We're happy to answer them. That pretty much reaches the end of all we have for you this week. Nate, you got anything to add for us?
That's it, man. Go support Joe Burrow's pro women's volleyball team league. Also, it's baseball season, so we are gearing up over at the Riverfront Red Show. Also, we do that. It drops every Friday morning, and we got some big news coming on that front soon. So if you are a fan of the other one of the other professional sports team in Cincinnati, please head on over to our YouTube channel or find the Riverfront on wherever you get your podcasts and listen to us talk baseball because it's spring, baby.
A little bit of a leak for for what he's talking about for the news that's going to drop. He and Chad are doing a calendar. I've seen some of the proofs. The pictures are fantastic. It's a beefcake like they're acting like they're firemen or sexy police officers. It's,
If you've ever seen Burt Reynolds, the bearskin rug, you can think that. And also maybe one like this. No, that's the other great Joe.
Do you think you can look good being all decked out in Gucci like our boy Joey Votto?
No
And
chance.
the grill?
Not a chance.
No, me neither. Me neither. I don't even think he doesn't look good. He's just cool enough to pull it off.
He's got the confidence, baby. Got the swag.
Hell yeah. That's all we got this week for my good friend, Nate Dotson. Everyone's good friend, the original Bengal draft pick, Bob Johnson. I am Joe Farsing. Everyone take care. We will see you all next week.